What we're going to look at now are the parts and function of the microscope. Again, some of you have really good background on the microscope. Some of you don't have very good background on the microscope, and that's okay because that's why we're doing this. So for some people it's a review, for other ones it might be brand new stuff. You should have a printout of the microscope. If you can't print it off, no big deal. Just sketch a crappy one as we're doing the notes. And when you get back, I'll just make sure you get a copy of the microscope. Alrighty, so let's just start. So you should have a diagram that looks like this that you printed off. If you don't have one, just sketch one in your notebook and I'll make sure you get a copy when we're back at school. We're going to go through each of the parts and what the function is. Take your time on this. If you need to stop and go back and listen to, parts of this whole PowerPoint again, go ahead. It doesn't matter. We're not in a big rush. Of course, there's going to be a quiz at the end of this, so do pay attention to what we're talking about so you can get like perfect on your quiz again. So this is a simple picture of a microscope. It's called a compound microscope because we're going to be using two lenses in order to magnify the specimen. If we had more time, we would go through the development of the microscope. It started way back with people just making lenses for glasses, and then they realized they could examine things underneath the microscope. And then there was a whole big industry way back in the 1600s of lens making, and then one guy who's called the father of microscopy is Anton van Leeuwenhoek. He was a Dutch lens maker, and he sort of invented the first simple microscope. And he looked at all sorts of stuff under the microscope. You name it, pond water. He looked at saliva. He looked at the plaque on his teeth. He looked at dirt from under his fingernails. He looked at earwax. He looked at dirt in the garden, anything. And he drew a whole pile of diagrams of what he saw under the microscope and called a lot of these things animalcules. So he kind of was one of the first people to actually draw some of the bacteria and tiny protists that we see now. So we're just going to go through some of the parts. The first part of the microscope is this lens that's up at the top here. Right, so when we first look through, we've got a lens that's up here. This is the ocular, or we can call it the eyepiece. And a lot of times on your microscopes, when we get them in the classroom, you'll see that it'll say 10x on it. So this tells you that it magnifies whatever you're looking at 10 times bigger than real life, or what the naked eye can see. This is the body tube. So in here, we're going to have, the image is going to travel down here. It's going to be flipped around with some mirrors, but this is the body tube. The next thing on here is the arm. So this is the arm. Now, this is one type of microscope. There's a lot of different types of microscopes that are going to be designed a little bit differently, but they basically have the same parts. So this is the arm, and basically the arm just, supports the whole mechanism up here where we're going to be which we're going to use in order to view the specimen. So this here is a revolving nose piece. So you'll see the microscopes. If you haven't used one before, you can't remember. This is going to turn so we can look at the different objective lenses that are here. And we've got a low, medium, and high objective lens. And that's what we're going to be using to turn as the revolving nose piece. Now, like I just said, these are the objective lenses. So these all also have a lens in them, which are also going to magnify. The low power one is 4 times, medium is 10, and high is 40 times. So we can get our images quite enlarged, or our specimen quite enlarged, to look at it underneath the microscope. All right, so those are objective lenses. Now, some of the microscopes have this little clip on here. Some of them don't. Actually, sometimes the little clip that's on there is really annoying because you want to move the slide around, then the clip holds it down. But it's also great because sometimes you don't want your slide to be moved around and the clip holds it down. But this is called a stage clip, or stage clips. There's one on each side of the stage. So they're just going to hold down the glass slide that we're going to use. This next thing, this is the stage. So this is where the specimen is going to be resting. There's a hole in the center so that the light can shine through, and you'll put the microscope slide on so the light shines through the bottom of the specimen. The next thing on here is the diaphragm. So right in here, now different microscopes change their light different ways. Here what we have is like this little lever that you can slide back and forth, and it's going to change the amount of light that's going through. Next thing here, this is going to be your light source. So this is an electric microscope, so we're going to have electric light bulb in there. You may see some of the older ones which were just a mirror, so you would have to use the microscope somewhere where it's sunny or you've got a good source of light and you change the angle of the mirror to try to shine the light up through your specimen. Now, this big knob on the side here is the coarse adjustment knob. So we're going to use the coarse adjustment knob. We put this slide under, we start with low power, we're going to start the lowest, and then we can really quickly focus the specimen. So we can just kind of get it into view quickly. We're not sitting there for hours trying to twirl around and be all finicky. So the coarse adjustment knob quickly brings the specimen into view. But sometimes we want to look at more detail. So the detail one is this fine adjustment knob. So we're going to use the fine adjustment knob when we really want to get the detail in there, or maybe we want to look through the layers of a specimen. The fine adjustment knob is the knob that we're going to use. The other thing, and this is going to come up later, is we want to use the fine adjustment knob only when we're on high power, and I'll show you why later on. But that's when it's really, really important. Obviously, we have an on and off switch. Sometimes with some of the microscopes that they have, actually we have them at West Ferris, the on and off switch also is like a dimmer switch. So rather than having the light adjustment up here with the diaphragm here, we can adjust the amount of light from down. There's a little dial that's down here. I find it a tad bit annoying, but you know, once you get used to your microscope, you get used to your microscope. And here at the bottom, we have the base, which basically supports the whole microscope. Alrighty, so when you get your microscopes in class, you take a quick peek, just make sure the wire is all safe, make sure the lenses are in good working order here, nothing's cracked, it's not too dusty, although who knows after Christmas holidays how dusty things are going to be. So we'll take a look. Now, this is a real live microscope, all right? It's at my house. So we're just going to kind of go through. You don't have a picture of this. I just kind of want to go through and show you. These are kind of the microscopes that we're going to be using in school. Some of them are a little bit different from this, but this is a typical microscope. So here's your ocular up at the top, the body tube. All right, we've got the arm there. We've got a revolving nose piece and our objective lenses. And we've got our stage clips. You can see there's one on each side here. And you can also see, remember I said there's a little hole in this stage there? So you'll put your slide across here. Your little specimen will be right over that hole, and that way the light will be able to shine right through that hole and right through the bottom of the specimen. Right, there's your stage where you're going to be putting your microscope slide. You're going to adjust using the diaphragm there. Here's your light source. Here's your coarse adjustment knob there. This is the big one. You can see it's much, much, much bigger. So that's to quickly get your specimen into focus. And here's your fine adjustment knob for when you want to do some more fine adjustments to get some great detail in there, or if we're on high power. And there's your on and off switch and your base. So this is basically almost exactly the same as the diagram. So when you're in class, you'll see the different types of microscopes that we have. Alrighty, so next page is, the care of the microscope. Okay, so the first one is when you're getting your microscope or bringing it back, we always have to make sure we carry it really, really carefully. You have to carry it with two hands, one hand on the arm and one hand on the base. All right, so one hand on the base, one hand on the arm, carry it upright, because sometimes if you're carrying it like a baby or sideways or upside down, which hopefully you never will, this ocular can fall off and they're quite expensive to replace. So you want to carry it quite safely. Right, there's me with my Christmas present from my son, University of Windsor sweatshirt. Anyway, and my messy house in behind. All right, next thing we do is when we're putting it away as well, we put it away on low power. So we want to make sure, you saw in the slide previously how we were carrying it. We want to make sure if it's on low power that if somehow this stage accidentally bangs up or bangs down, or mostly bangs up, it won't bang into the objective lenses. So we put it away on low power all the time. We also cover it with a dust cloth or a dust cover if we have one. So this is just a plastic one. We've got some other ones at school that are cloth. So you cover it with a dust cover if they're available. Just keeps the dust out of the lenses, off the stage. Just, you know, make sure a microscope lasts a lot longer and make it clearer for you to look through. We also use lens paper to clean the lenses. So this is lens paper. If anybody has glasses, Especially, well, not especially, but if you have glasses, you're probably given a special cloth to clean off your glasses. It's really, really soft. Well, it's the same type of thing with this lens paper. It's so finely woven that there's no way that you can scratch the lenses. And again, the lenses are quite expensive, so we use lens paper if you need to clean off the lenses at all. You just wipe them down with the lens paper, which we'll probably have to do when we get back to school. Give your microscope a little clean. Alrighty, and then the last thing is fine focus only on high power. So you can see here, I took a slide, I put it under the microscope, there's nothing on it. I'm not that much of a nerdy over Christmas. And I put the slide down as I was focusing in there as much as I could under high power. See how close you are to the slide here? So what you want to do is you want to just use the fine focus, because if you use the coarse adjustment knob, a lot of times you'll end up cracking your slide, or worse, cracking the lens. Cracking the slide, not such a big deal. It happens sometimes, it's accidental. We bought some slides a few years ago that were at school that I don't know how the company made them, but they were so thick in the center. We cracked so many of them because you couldn't focus on it even with the fine focus without cracking the slide. So just make sure we fine focus only on high power. Alrighty. So next thing is when we return back to class, we're going to do a couple things. So we're going to work on making some slides, and what we're going to do with those slides is we're going to look at a variety of cells. I kept one thing at school in some water, a really neat plant, a plant from the lake. Put extra water in it before Christmas, thinking, okay, we'll see you, in a couple of weeks, and I really hope that it's still there when we get back. Alrighty, so make sure you do the quiz on this. You get 3 tries again, and hopefully you get perfect on it. And when you get back, I'll have a bunch of 100%ers. I'll see you on the next video.